Produced by Podcast Architects.
Hi, Channa Borman here with Straight Talk and Honest Advice, the podcast about a journey. The journey from deciding that you're going to file for divorce, the process of divorce, and then how you acclimate to being single again. And today we're hosted by the Stella Hotel. Thank you, Stella, for hosting us. And I'm joined by my friend Spring. So Spring, I'd like to talk to you today about your journey. You're divorced, is that right?
I am, yes.
And I wanted to talk to you about some of the barriers, some of your fears when you were making the decision to divorce, and then whether or not those fears were justified once you were divorced, and then kind of how you've changed your life since then. So tell me, what fears did you have when you were deciding that the divorce was the right choice for you?
The unknown is always a huge fear. The first divorce I had was, with children, so that's always something to really consider, think about. Financial is also a big, huge factor in what you're going to do, how you're going to pay for everything. The first divorce had young kids, so they were still in daycare, trying to navigate all of that on your own. And you do have a support group. Most people have a support group. I did. So I was very blessed with that.
Mhm.
But trying to find out that support group, sometimes friends change due to divorce. One person will choose the other partner, vice versa.
Mhm.
So that's kind of something that you also have to really think about. And, it's just all unknown when you start thinking about that process.
So one of the fears you mentioned was finances.
Mhm.
Were you working when you decided to file for divorce?
I was, yes. I
And
was working
in
at A&M.
and in the job you were working, were you making what you considered at that time to be enough money to provide for you and your kids?
It was not. It
Mhm.
was not. So I looked at all the resources that were available to me. One of the resources that people with children don't realize is if they're in daycare age children and beyond elementary age as well, there's resources in every county, every state that people can utilize and move forward. So that should never be a reason to stay.
That should never be the barrier, right?
Correct.
And I think that CCMS that you're talking about,
I
is that
am,
right?
yes, that's the one in Brazos County. I'm not sure what it would
Right.
be in other places, but Brazos County is CCMS. So
Mhm.
I went and met with them and decided that that was something I did. I also volunteered a lot with my children at the Brazos Church Pantry. So
Mm.
every month, I would also be a person who would get food from there. So it's not enough food like food stamps, but it's enough to carry you over. So
Right.
if you don't have the funds, there are many different uh, options available to single parents.
Well, it sounds to me like you really utilized what those options were. You went out there and found them.
Yes, I had to.
Yeah.
Yes, I had to.
You needed child support to be able to supplement your earnings and provide for the kids.
Correct.
Is that fair?
It is, but
That was a
child
struggle.
support does not come automatically. So
Right.
the minute that you say, "Okay, I file for divorce," it does not mean that you automatically get child support. So thinking about that, and people can plan ahead too. Save $1 here or there, whatever they're able to do. I already had the resources coming, and as you had mentioned,
Mhm.
child support was very hard with the first one coming. We dealt with that for many years, you and
Mhm.
I. So
We did.
yeah,
Up and down,
yes,
pursuing, right?
correct, yes,
Now, knowing now, uh, after that divorce, you were going to have to pursue child support, and there would be struggles in that vein. Do you think you made the right choice?
I did. I did for myself and my children. I did. Yeah.
And let me ask you, a lot of times people will tell me that they stay for as long as they stay for their kids.
Yes.
What do you say to that?
Well, for me, my choice, my decision was not to. And I would not say that that is a great atmosphere for your children. Children pick up on tension, they pick up on angry words, they pick up on, um, how relationships are, and you're teaching them. So you want them to know what healthy relationships are. And mine was not going to be a healthy relationship with children involved. That's why I decided to move forward.
So smart. I mean, so
Yeah.
smart. We are our children's biggest teacher,
Right.
right? They
Correct.
emulate us in every single way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And such a responsibility that is to carry,
It is a huge one.
right?
Yeah.
How have you seen yourself grow since you made the decision, since the divorce was done, and since that litigation was finished?
Well, I have always been independent. So that's been a blessing to me, as I've never let anything fall on me that I can't, pick myself up. There now, that doesn't mean that there's not times that you're not going to just
Mhm.
fall or feel like you were the worst failure ever. Everybody's going to have those emotions, but for me it was getting to know myself, getting to know what my likes were as a single person, who knew I like to hike. So I hike a lot now. I love dogs. So I do a lot with dogs. I like to do things in the community, and I have friends now that like to do the same kind of thing. So, that kind of stuff. Having little dinners here and there with, new people, and my kids are getting older now to where they have their own, lives. So it's kind of good that I found who I was in this whole process.
Right. Could that have ever happened had you not made the decision?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, it may have happened. I mean, things change, but I think that me finding myself and who I am and my true self to me was quite important.
Mhm. When you earlier you said in the first time there were
The
children.
first time. Yeah.
So you've been divorced twice.
Yes.
So in the second divorce there were no children. Is that right?
Correct.
Was that easier then than the first?
No.
Why not?
There was a lot of bitterness. It there was different things that happened in the
Mm,
divorce that should not have ever happened,
mhm,
and it was a 2-year process compared to what should have been, a very easy, amicable, no children are involved
mhm,
divorce, and it
mhm.
just was not.
Were the fears that you had prior to that filing the same as the ones you had when you had children?
Yes, the unknown. Can I make the house payment? Where are we going to live if I can't?
Mhm,
Um, you know, all the different I don't knows. Again, you go through the process of trying to find out who you are as a person, which I'd already done that quite a bit because there was 10 years in between the two marriages. So I'd already done that quite a bit. But you then have to, you're not a couple anymore. So
mhm,
you don't do couple things anymore. You do, singular things, and
mhm,
trying to figure that out. And again, my kids are older. So I'm not having to worry about going to gymnastics or football
mhm,
or,
mhm.
any kind of extracurricular activities. It's kind of, now I have to figure out what I'm going to do in a healthy way on a Friday. I'm not a bar person.
Rather
So
than finding the nearest bar and sitting
yeah,
down. Yeah.
I'm not a bar person. I've never been a bar person. So yeah, it's just
So how do
trying to
you
figure out.
navigate that? How have you navigated that? Finding who you are without being a bar person, I guess, without being in sort of the more traditional or conventional ways that people go out and meet other people.
Well, my friends have been a very big backbone. Is of course, so is my mom. As you get older, you become best friends with your parents, and that's
Mhm,
kind of funny. My mom, is one of my best friends. So, and then I have my other friends that I would even as a couple, we would get together every Friday night, rotating at different
mhm,
houses and playing board games and having food. And as I spoke about before, they kind of navigated towards me due to things that were going on in the divorce. I refused to make that choice for them. They made that choice. And stuff. So we continued
mhm.
that tradition and had a great time doing it. Again, I love to hike, so being out in the wilderness by yourself, with your dogs, and being really able to listen to yourself and what goes on, that's important to me. So
And that helps you develop your own sense of power.
It
right?
does,
Don't
and
you
it
feel more powerful now?
I do, and I also feel well, and I'm able to pay my bills, because I did get the house in the divorce. So, being able to, I'm not rich by any means, but I'm able to afford all the bills for the kids and myself,
Mhm.
and yeah, being one with yourself, and that is very empowering. Knowing that I can stand on my own 2 feet without somebody there as a crutch, is very very empowering.
And so what would spring today, 2022, say to spring 10, 20 years ago?
You need to ask the 40-year-old me would tell a 20-year-old me, love is great. Love is, great, but when we're talking about making a life with somebody that's supposed to last for forever, talking about the things such as children's discipline is huge. That was a huge problem in my second
Mhm.
marriage.
Mhm.
Finances is also huge. Who's going to be paying for what? Are we just splitting down the middle, or what have you?
Mhm.
Uh to anything that's leisurely fun, what do you like? Does that partner like what you like to do or not? Because if you want to hang out at the bar and that's what y'all like to do, that's great, but once we start growing up, once we start having children, then where are we?
Mhm.
So I think having those hard discussions prior to getting married, it would be one of the biggest things. You need to have those sit down, get to really know somebody. Do you mind how they eat at the dinner table? Do you, I mean,
Yeah. Do you hate the way they
whatever.
breathe?
Yes. I
Yes.
mean, because you will eventually hate how they breathe because you're upset with them, and these
Right.
things happen. But
Right.
talking through that also, how does that happen? Have you
Mhm.
actually had a fight with them,
Mhm.
um, and made up? And how did that happen?
Mhm. And learning how to fight nicely without
Correct.
fighting under the,
Yes,
hitting below the
vicious.
belt. Yeah.
Vicious is yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
You say things in anger. And I'm a person who needs to evaluate what's going on and then have that conversation. And so being able for my partner moving forward to understand that I need a minute,
Mhm.
and then we will regroup and we can move forward on that discussion. But all those kinds of things are very important, not just the honeymoon phase. You need to not go in the honeymoon phase and make life decisions.
Right. Right. I think
Hmm.
that is such good advice. Such good advice.
Yeah.
And I think that if people were to really consider those kinds of things, kind of more grounded
Right.
things, we would have fewer divorces.
Oh,
Probably
I agree.
probably because we would have fewer marriages.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
And let me ask you, when you were considering filing for divorce and you were deciding, that you were going to hire a lawyer, what were the things that you considered in making that determination of who you would hire, and what were the qualities that you wanted?
The first one, second one, it was a given. It was going to be you again. But the first one was, who is going to fight for myself and for my children, and not viciously attack the other person, but make sure that everything was honest, and to make sure that I was also a team. So not only were they going to represent me, but they were going to let me know how I was going to be represented, um, how I was going to how I was going to um uh move forward, and things of that nature. So I
Right.
think
Know about the process.
communication was
Mhm.
was huge.
Mhm.
And that was the one thing that really struck me the first time we met. You knew I was a broke single parent, or going to be, and you were like, this is what we're going to do. And I met with your whole team and we moved forward. You have that client liaison who
Mhm.
didn't really cost me anything. Anytime I would call to want to get caught up, and you were very open and honest, don't speak to them
Mhm.
if unless you and I need to speak, and stuff like that. So it is a long process. People need to understand it's not, a 30-day divorce. It's
Mhm.
never going to be, regardless if it's the most amicable thing ever, it's just not going to be due to the courts and stuff. So knowing that you have someone on your side, feeling that you're able to talk to them and communicate. You've always been open with emails and text messages and what have you.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that was always very important to me, to feel like I was part of the team when it was decisions about my life.
Most important. I mean,
Correct.
you have to drive your bus,
Right.
right? We can't
Right.
save you.
Exactly.
So when one of the concerns you mentioned was fear of the unknown,
Hmm.
and in that fear, um, now you know
Right.
what you didn't know before, right?
Correct.
Were your fears justified?
No, not. I mean, the unknown is always
I
scary,
mean, yeah,
but
the
but
unknown's always scary, but the
financial.
things that you were really fearing, like, oh my God, it's going to be so terrible. I'm going to be poor. I'm going to be destitute, or I'm going to be, I'm not going to be able to take care of the
Right.
kids. Were those things what you actually found to be true?
No, no, not at all. Um, God provided, and He did provide. Where there's a will, there's a way, and I, made sure that the kids and I were taken care of. It's very important to be happy and not be miserable. So I chose happiness, and so in happiness, I've been able to provide everything I want to do. We still go on vacations. They might be a little different now than they were, but we're still able to go and do. We still are able to eat out every once in a while, what have you,
Mm-hmm.
things, like that. So we still continue on. We just continue on in a happy way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
versus, us all being miserable.
And are you able now to focus on a future where that is what your plan is, to be happy,
Oh,
to
yeah.
look for that happy future?
Oh, yeah. I'm happy now. I'm
Mhm.
happy all the time. So, um, yeah,
You are happy all the time.
I am happy all the time. Um, but yeah, I think I am, I've worked at A&M now for 20 years, so I just got my retirement letter in the mail. So it's getting pretty close to,
Congratulations.
yeah. So it's looking forward to my future. My kids are getting older, so it's time to start looking at my future and what does that look like and what
Mhm.
do I want to do once retirement comes, once the kids are out of the house, so that we're moving into another chapter. It's a happy chapter, but it's kind of one of the unknowns also.
Right.
What do you do with yourself? So when you're an empty nester and things, but it's going to be a fun chapter. I think I'm looking forward to it.
Exciting.
Yes,
It's going to be
it is.
exciting.
It is exciting.
The unknown in this environment is going to be fantastic.
It is. I agree.
The difference I see in you from the very first time I met you,
Mhm.
years and years and years ago,
Right.
to now, it is, and even to the last time I spoke with you before the second divorce was
Mhm.
finished, it is just remarkable.
Well, thank you.
Do you see a difference in yourself? Do you see
Yeah.
what I see?
Most of the time, yeah, most of the time. Like I said, there's always going to be those little hookups you have or hiccups you have in your life, the little, oh my gosh, I need to take a breather kind of things. But yeah, for the most part, I'm ecstatic. I'm happy. A big thing is being able to be by yourself and loving yourself and not depending on somebody else for your happiness, which I am. So I don't depend on anybody for my happiness. I love my life. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody told me the other day, your next love interest should be you.
Yeah, it is.
I love
love
that.
myself.
Yeah, I love that.
I agree. Yep.
Thanks, Spring. Thanks so much for coming and visiting
You're
with me
welcome.
today. Thank you so
for
much.
inviting me.
And thank you so much. Thank you for coming here to share straight talk and honest advice with me. We'll see you next time.
Produced by Podcast Architects.